What are we doing? Okay, so this first question was the worst answered question on our test. So typically, with a question, and you're trying to make sense of it, a graph is a good start, or a diagram of some kind. So for this question, we want to do a little diagram like this. So we have a rectangular mirror. This is X, and this is Y, maybe. We know that this one is going to be 45.2, and this one is rounded to 30.0. Now these are rounded values. These are rounded values. So what you have to do first is you have to identify how small could that have been? How big could that have been? Now what's causing difficulties for you on this one is we're not giving integer numbers and then you're looking at the 1 decimal point below that. We are looking at how it was rounded at the decimal place before that. So you have to see where it's been rounded. I did see a similar question to this, and it's much harder because you had to understand the concept even better than this. Because it had been rounded to the nearest 0.25, and it made the question really tricky. But for this one, it's not too bad, it's just been rounded. So the smallest value here is going to be 29.95. Think about this number. If you round it up, that 5 disappears, carries forward. That 9 becomes a 10. So we put the 0, we carry the 1 onto the 9. So this is the smallest value for y. We can have that value. That value gets rounded up. At the upper limit, we can't actually have because the upper limit is going to be 30.05. This is the upper limit. So this is not a value that we can actually select, but it is a value we can say this is the upper limit and anything below that is included. So what will be the range for the x values? Discuss with the person next to you. Don't discuss with Jasmine. Discuss with anybody but Jasmine. Jasmine remains silent. Discuss with the person next to you, or write on a piece of paper. Write on a piece of paper what it should be. You can write on your exam if
You answered it. What is it?
Okay, so what is the next value down? It's going to be 45.15. What is the next value up? 45.25. So this is the range of possible values. We have to calculate the area. So you need to find the smallest width. You have to find the limits of the actual values, not the limits of the area. Some people calculate the area and then did this process, but that will lead to a smaller range of possible values. So next, we need to do multiplication. Let's pull up our calculator for that one.
I swear we didn't do this in class.
I will show you in the textbook, and I will show you on the lesson notes that we took. We did this. Okay, so 29.95 times 45.15 is the smallest possible area. So the area is going to be 1352.2425. So the area is going to be bigger or equal to that. And we can pull up the next one, 30.05 times 45.25.
So it says rounded to the nearest tenth of a square centimeter.
Yeah, I haven't got to that bit yet.
Oh, okay,
So I'm putting in my full values, 1359.7625. And then lastly, It says, find the range of values for the frame rounded to the nearest tenth of a square centimeter. So now we have to round again at this point. We get 1352.2 is less than or equal to the area is less than 1359.8. When we round the values, we're inaccurate again here because this number here, you can't actually have this value. So less than 1359.8 would be 1359.79. It's bigger than that value, but we've rounded. So. Okay, Raja, focus on the learning, not the grade. Okay? Focus on what we're doing in class so we don't repeat the mistakes again. Let's move to the next question. So this question was fairly easy and straightforward, but it confused people a little bit. So we have a straight line here, L1, and the equation for the line is given as y is equal to ax plus 5, and we're asked to find a. So this form of the straight line equation, mx plus c, is the slope-intercept form. So it's a very useful form of the graph, of the linear equation. It's useful for converting between a graph and an equation, or an equation and a graph. You have three forms of the, try focus on me guys, try focus on me on what I'm saying. We have three forms of the linear equation. Slope-intercept, good for converting between graphs and equations, backwards and forwards. That's why it's the one that you get introduced to first when you're learning about these equations. Next up is the point-slope form. The point-slope form is the one y minus y1 with m bracket x minus x1. Point-slope form is the best one for creating an equation from words. So if you're trying to create an equation from words, it's the easiest one to do that from. And then the third form, the general form, that one's really useful if you're solving equation systems by hand. We don't have to do that on this course. We can always have our calculator to solve an equation system. If you're doing it manually by hand, that form makes it the easiest to solve. So here we need ax plus 5. We need to figure out what a is. A is the slope. So we need to look for 2 points on this line where we can see it clearly crossing the grid marks. It crosses here, here, here. Can't quite see any others. So these are the best points to choose. What you should then do is draw a slope triangle. So we draw a slope triangle like this one. Here we see that the change in y is equal to 3, while the change in x is equal to 1. So the slope we need to answer part A here. The slope is that A is equal to 3 over 1. The answer is 3. Another point that you should work with is you should not be answering your questions with your working here. It's okay in a diagram to mark points, that is useful, the examiner will look for that, but you should not be answering your work here. It will not get assessed next time. Some of you made this mistake, particularly when you have a question where the space for writing is on the next page. Got to get used to moving across on that one. It is a little bit better structured in the actual IB exam because they'll print a blank page to make them lie side by side. And if they fall out of order, I don't want to waste the paper, but they will print a blank page to make them lie side by side. So make sure you also indicate which part of the question you are answering in a column down the side. It's best to save your space in here so you have space to work with, so write neat and organized, and put your parts to the question down the outside. So B is up next. B says that L2 has this equation. So x plus 2y minus 1 is equal to 0. What is the gradient here? Can we see the gradient? What is the advantage of slope-intercept form? Sorry, do you want to put your computers away? Put your computers away. What is the advantage of slope-intercept form? you can see what the gradient is. So if you're given the equation in this form, our task is to rearrange it into slope-intercept form. So to make this rearrangement, I'll begin by moving the x across. So I get 2y is equal to, if I move this x across, what does it become?
Negative x.
It becomes negative x. If I move that 1 across, what does it become? Plus 1. So now what I have to do is I have to remove the 2. How do I, don't answer class, how do I remove the 2? I divide everything by 2, I get y equals, what will happen to minus 1 when I divide it by 2? What will it become? I'm not taking anything from you. Negative 1 over 2. For this question, we don't need to go any further, but we would, because we're neat. What would happen to plus 1 when we divide it by 2? So we get 1 over 2. What is the slope of the, oh, we have to draw a line, so we do need the whole thing. What is the slope of this line? What is the y-intercept of this line? 1 over 2. So I said this form is best for converting between equations and graphs. So we need to draw this. So we just clean this up. This graph is going to go through here. How do I know it goes through that point there? The y-intercept is a half. The y-intercept is a half. So the slope triangle for this, what does it say to do? What does it say to do here in the slope triangle? It says minus a half. What does that mean in terms of a slope triangle? Is it 3 across, 1 up? Is it 5 down, 3 across, or what? What does the slope triangle tell us?
1 down, 2 across.
It says 1 down, 2 across. 1 down, 2 across. So we need to go 1 down to here, 2 across to there. We need to go 1 down to here, 2 across to here. We need to continue that line in a straight line, and it's going to give, oops, there's no undo button, sorry. It's going to give us something that looks like this. You should use a ruler. You must draw straight lines with a ruler. I've seen mark schemes that say you get 1 point for drawing and labeling the axes with a ruler. You don't use a ruler, you lose a point. You have to have a ruler for one of these examples. So we draw that, and then lastly we have to say where the 2 lines intersect. So we do this with an equation system. A lot of you, in these questions where we have multiple points to the question, you could have got the first part wrong. You could have got the second part wrong or something. And it's very common if you make a mistake with the equation system. If you write down the equations you're using for your equation systems and you solve it correctly, you get full points. If you just put an answer and it's wrong, you get no points. Listen to me carefully here. If you show you're working, you will get follow-through marking. And you can get tons of follow-through marking. If this was a 5-point question based on finding that gradient, and you're getting no points because you've not shown what you're doing, you will lose a lot, okay? So for an equation system, when you type it into the calculator, how does it look on the calculator? Let me do the calculator part first, so we can always sort of work backwards from it. So on the calculator, we press menu, algebra, solve linear equations, and then we choose this one. We type in our 2 equations here. Now, line 1 is y equals 3. So this is the important part here, is you need to show I am using 3, because if it's not the right value, you'll get the wrong answer. But if I see you say I'm using y equals 2x plus 5, because you calculated it to be 2 there, full marks. You'll see me mark the word FT next to the tick. That means follow through. I'm following through the working. I can only do it if I see the working. So here, we could enter this form, but we don't have to. Enter the original one here, because if you've made a mistake in your rearranging and you enter the original one, you're still correct. So it's better to stick to the original ones as much as possible. So we'll put x plus 2y minus 1 equals 0. I've missed an equals. Equals 0. And we get our answers there for that one. So, how does it look? Look, can you see the equation system? So an equation system has a single curly bracket like this. An equation system has a single curly bracket. These notations I'm showing you, they're not just for me. Don't ignore them. Think, oh, I don't really need that. I'll throw that. They mean something. Every single symbol I write on the board has a purpose to it. So then we write in y equals, what do we have? We have 3x plus 5, and our other one is x plus 2y minus 1 equals 0. So that's 1 point. Writing your equation system is 1 point. If I can see what equation system you're writing and it makes sense that you're using your mistakes, I can then do follow-through marking. Without it, I can't.
Does it matter if we put another bracket on the end of the...
We don't need it because that's part of the linear solve function of the calculator. So we shouldn't have another bracket. It makes it a set. It's a single bracket. I wouldn't penalize so much for that because it's still fairly clear what you're talking about. There's no more exam the same thing. So then we get our solution. Now it's a coordinate. Here it gives it, this calculator gives it as a list of values. And that is not the correct symbol for it to use. The curly bracket, it's the round bracket because it's a coordinate. And we can enter in as exact values like this. Or if you want to put decimals, you can convert it to decimals. Let me just fix my calculate document, 7, 2, stick it into float 3. If we wanted to put it like this, we could put it like this. But the exact value is accepted and considered better. All right, that is it for my advice on this exam.